Okay, so the next film in the series, we see the return of Sean Connery to the role of James Bond. George Lazenby left the series after his one film, one of the best films in the series, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and we had Diamonds Are Forever. Now, Peter Hunt, the director of On Her Majesty's Secret Service, said that the film Diamonds Are Forever, the pre-title sequence, could have actually had Tracy's death in Bond's arms, and actually thinking about it more, that would have been a fabulous opening to Diamonds Are Forever. And of course, had George Lazenby had stayed on as James Bond, Diamonds Are Forever could actually have been one of the best James Bond films. But Sean Connery returned, and they decided to go for a lighter tone. We're now into the 1970s. The film was filmed in 1971, and they decided to Americanize Bond. At one point, they didn't know who they were going to have as James Bond. At one point, they were going to. It was almost certain that they were going to have John Gavin as James Bond, who you may remember if you've seen the original Psycho, Hitchcock's Psycho. It's Marion's boyfriend, who we start Psycho with, where she's in the hotel room with John Gavin, and actually looking at him as an actor, he wouldn't have been a bad James Bond at all. But I think it was certainly Cubby's idea that Bond stay British. So the idea was that the producers were desperate to get Sean Connery back to play 007 because George Lazenby had bowed out from the series. So we have Diamonds Are Forever, the 7th James Bond film. Starts off sort of as it means to go on, really. There is humour from the very beginning. The very first scene is just comical. I don't know if it was meant to be played for, you know, to be effective and dramatic, but if it was, it fails on all accounts. It really does. It's just embarrassing. The characters at the beginning, the first one, Bond crashes him through these railings, and he's got him by the scruff of the neck, and this man, like, Bond's asking where he can find Blofeld, and this man says Cairo. He goes Cairo, and his lips are not moving with his voice. The lip syncing is completely off. So watch it if you don't believe me, and you'll see it's completely off. It's completely wrong. We have the pre-credit sequence. Bond sees an operation that Blofeld is trying to undertake to clone himself. He's trying to make 2 Blofelds, and Bond interrupts the cloning procedure and seemingly kills Blofeld. Welcome to hell, Blofeld, as he kills him. So it's Bond repaying the favour, basically, to Blofeld. Blofeld killed his wife, so Bond's going to kill Blofeld. Fair enough. That's how the pre-title sequence begins. The film could have gone in a certain direction. It could have kind of become a little like a revenge movie, and it would have worked significantly better if they'd gone down this route. But with Tom Mankiewicz's script, they decided to play out as much of the humour as possible, and it is the most ludicrous film in the series, I think. Well, it's certainly one of the most ludicrous films in the series, and the start of, you know, the next 3 films in particular, just playing for laughs, playing for jokes. The screenplay is littered with one-liners and just with nonsense, really, to be honest. It's just nonsense. The one good thing, one of the really good things, again, about the film is John Barry's score. It's another strong John Barry film score for Diamonds Are Forever. Some great cues in the film. And Shirley Bassey returns for one of the most recognisable, I suppose, of the James Bond theme songs for Diamonds Are Forever. She returns, obviously, after her theme song for Goldfinger, 7 years beforehand. So, Charles Gray is Blofeld this time round. It's not Telly Savalas. They're going through Blofelds just like that in these films. First it was Donald Pleasance, then it was Telly Savalas, and now the third Blofeld is Charles Gray. And, I mean, at one point he's dressed up as a woman. Blofeld is dressed up as a woman in the back of a car. And he actually says the line, "Oh, look what the cat dragged in." It's just, Blofeld and drag does not work. It is cringy, and it's just a bad scene in a film littered with bad scenes. It really is. It's really bad. It's shockingly bad. So Charles Gray is not a particularly good Blofeld. He's not. Donald Pleasance and Telly Savalas were miles better. Miles. And thankfully it will be the last time you actually see Blofeld in person, until perhaps the pre-credits sequence of For Your Eyes Only. But this is the last appearance for Blofeld in Diamonds Are Forever in the flesh. Charles Gray playing Blofeld. His previous character, Henderson, in You Only Live Twice, is so much better. It really is. I think it's because he's on the screen for a short period of time in You Only Live Twice, and here he's on the screen for, he gets much more screen time, obviously, as the antagonist, as Blofeld. We have Connery, of course, returning to the series, and for a 41-year-old, Sean Connery looks flabby and old. I'm going to say it, I have to say it, because that's honestly what I believe. And he just doesn't look interested. He doesn't look interested in the proceedings at all. He just looks like he doesn't want to be there. And he was actually paid £1.25 million to star in the film, which for 1971 was an extraordinary sum. And he made huge demands, and he decided, you know, I'm coming back for one more film, that's it. Even though his contract stated that he could come back for 2 more films, he decided one was enough. He was only coming back for the one. So, you know, producers at the end of this film were in the same problem again. They had to find a new James Bond. We'll come to that, obviously, later. But we have so many misfires in this film. Also in terms of characters, Jill St. John plays Tiffany Case, who is about as alluring as a toilet duck, to be honest. She's really, there are very few words I can say about the character. She is bumbling. She's the most bumbling of any of the Bond girls up to this point. And, you know, for somebody who works in diamond smuggling and diamond cases, she just doesn't come across as intelligent at all in any shape or form. And she does aid Bond a little in his mission, but she just gets some of the worst dialogue. It's actually some of the worst dialogue in the series until we get to Die Another Day, with some of the dialogue that was given to Halle Berry, which is just criminal. But this was some of the worst dialogue in the series up to this point. We have Bruce Glover and Putter Smith playing 2 openly gay assassins, Mr. Wint and Mr. Kidd. There's one moment that's actually very good with those two, and it's the first scene that they're in where they poison a dentist. A dentist is checking one of the assassin's teeth, and one of them, Mr. Wint, decides to put a scorpion down his back, and it's actually quite a good scene. It's one of the better scenes in the film. The locations are actually very good in this film as well. Amsterdam, Las Vegas, 2 locations that hadn't been seen in Bond until this point. And Lana Wood is actually not bad as Plenty O'Toole. It gets one of the most interesting lines as well in the film. Plenty O'Toole, "Hi, I'm Plenty, named after your father, perhaps." It's Plenty O'Toole. It's great. I never understood that when I was really young watching the film, but my dad explained it to me. So there we go. In the small scene that Lana Wood plays Plenty O'Toole, she is actually a more interesting Bond girl than Jill St. John, who is the central Bond girl of the film. So it's a little bit worrying when that happens in your film. So it's very hard to choose my three favourite scenes in Diamonds Are Forever. I chose Winton Kid with the scorpion, Winton Kid being killed by James Bond, which actually really isn't one of the best scenes, but it's so hard to find best scenes in the film, and Bond being cremated as well by Winton Kid. So actually, Winton Kid are the basis for for the top three scenes of the film, in my opinion, from Diamonds Are Forever. There's not a huge amount I can say. It's not a huge amount more I can say about the film, apart from the fact that I think it is the worst in the series. It's it could have been so much more. It could have been a revenge film. You know, it could have been, you know, a la Quantum of Solace. People complain about Quantum of Solace as the follow-up to Casino Royale, but in many respects, these films kind of mirror each other. On Her Majesty's Secret Service and Casino Royale, they both end with a death, and, you know, Quantum of Solace follows Casino Royale as a direct sequel, as Bond is getting revenge for the death of Vesper, for the woman he loves. On Her Majesty's Secret Service should have gone down the same route. George Lazenby should have stayed as Bond for at least one more film, and it should have been a sequel. We should have had Diamonds Are Forever, and it should have been a tough, gritty James Bond film. But unfortunately, the result was a very poor, very lazy film. Just full of jokes, full of nonsense, and it's the film that I like to watch least out of all of the James Bond films. I don't say that any of the films are really bad. I would watch all of the films. There are some redeeming features in Diamonds Are Forever. Not many, but some. Tom Mankiewicz will return to provide the screenplay for Live and Let Die, which is such an improvement on Diamonds Are Forever. It's still not the best film by any stretch, but it's a huge improvement on Diamonds Are Forever. So overall, Diamonds Are Forever for me is the weakest of the James Bond films. So James Bond will return in the guise of Sir Winkalot, Roger Moore, Mr. Eyebrows, in Live and Let Die, the 8th of the James Bond films, and we are into the 1970s now. The emphasis very firmly on comedy, certainly for the early 1970s. And James Bond will return. So if you like Diamonds Are Forever, I'll be interested to know your thoughts. I want you to tell me why you think it's a good film, because I really cannot stand the film. I really cannot. So luckily, James Bond will return in a better film, Live and Let Die.